Hi, YouTube. I hope you're doing good. I'm doing okay, not too bad. I wrote what the beginning of the scriptures were in my community and on Facebook, the information, and you can look it up. It's all true. How the ancient Greek was the first scriptures, and things that came after that were either taken out of context, not understood, or intentionally misleading. But so take it for what it's worth. If that would change anybody's ideal of what their religious beliefs were, well, maybe that would be a good thing. I don't know. I, for one, am too scientifically minded and too much of an investigator to just stand still with what somebody hands me and say, wow, this is absolutely true, and swear on my mother's grave that it was true, or on my own life. That's what these people are doing. There's people in academia, there's scholars that will not even discuss this issue with other scholars, and um, they have and I have left academia in the dust because they're not willing to go further for the sake of God or the people in the world, whether it be Christianity or any other faith. When you are studying the philology of a language and where that language began, that's what you have to do. You can't go with your dogma and your ideals, um, no matter what. And when somebody presents you with evidence to the contrary of what your belief is, you should find out why that's a contrary aspect of something than to what you've been traditionally taught. You have to ask questions like, what would institute or a group of people, very large groups of people, organizations, have to gain by pushing something forward that is not true? And if you can't do that when you're studying the scriptures, Christ told you to question everything, and academia is not doing that. And they won't even, they would call it a debate. Um, the rest of us normal ones call it talking about what it is, and why are people so afraid to hear what the ancients had to say about what a verse might be in the scriptures. you know Here's one for you. It said that Job got boils from Satan, and when he was inflicted with that, he sat down into a pile of ashes and scraped it off. I was thinking to myself, I was trying to dig it up in the ancient text this morning, but I didn't get as far as what I wanted. But I'm thinking, I'm almost positive that, see, it's a medical book, and it's a life lesson book, yes, but there's more medical stuff. Why the ashes? Perhaps the natural lime that is in ashes, the leftover from a carbon. If you take ashes and some kind of carbon and natural lime, you can make actually concrete with that. You can make bricks, but I mean, I'm thinking of the natural ashes. You can use it in soap making. You can use it in, um, like I say, concrete, farming. So I'm thinking maybe there was some antibacterial properties in those ashes, and it's probably worded differently in the Greek. So That's what I was trying to dig into this morning. If I get somewhere with that, and I'm going to try not today, but another day when I get there, or if I find it somewhere, I'll let you know. So, because there's got to be a medical reason. Nobody just sits down in ashes and starts scraping boils off their body. There had to be more to it medically than that. And that's the type of thing you're going to find in the Greek literature is the reasons why. Like if you look into the medical texts of Galen or whatever, some of us had reason to look into old medical texts when we were studying medicine. And that really gave us kind of a leg up on the issue of the texts that were changed and the words that were changed within that text. We started kind of recognizing different things that didn't go together. You know, while I was doing that, I was taught to do that, but um, yeah. Anyway, so ooh, I don't know if you can hear the sandhill cranes. They're over by the creek. They're some really big birds. If you're not familiar with them, they look sort of like a stork without the great big pouch, you know. So yeah, is the stork a boy or a girl? I've seen it depicted with like a delivery hat on, like it's a guy delivering the baby in its mouth, but that's a little hokey, isn't it? Yeah, let's just go back to Genesis. You could think it was two men. We created man in our image. How does that happen? How do you create somebody in your image if you're a guy? You would have to have a womb um, for that process to actually happen scientifically, logically, and in our reality. It has to be a man and a woman. That's the real part of the scriptures. That's the real stuff right there that they want to take the glory away from what a natural family is. That's why I'm so staunch on this and I won't shut up about it because these texts have been messed with. And the strong people, we're Dr. Amen says, we stormed the temple and we're taking our text back because this is our history, everybody in the world. This is our ancient history, and we want the truth of it. We don't want these translated, watered down versions of what their version of what they want is going to be. And that's something I shared. I'm not a big fan of this guy, but I'll pull up one I shared yesterday because I'm not really into the ancient alien thing and all that, whatever they want to call it. First, it's like people, they come on ships and then they come through a porthole. He says both things. Which is it, you know, one or the other or both? Did the ship come through a porthole? Yeah, that's probably what it was. Most likely. I'm being sarcastic, by the way. Um, he's got Palladians in the Bible, and I put a cleanup of Jewish scriptures, question mark. Not for everyone, apparently. Well, what I was speaking to, he's got a narrative of control and female gods, which is not correct either, but he's got to be um and he talks about it. I shared it in my community and on my Facebook. from the Fifth Kind, I think is the name of his channel. He goes into the history of when the Hebrews started changing the Bible. Now, if you don't think that that's important, you should think again, because you're a deceiver and a liar like the rest of the people out there doing it. And it takes great groups of people to keep this lie going. And it probably will only take a few of us. I mean, if the scholars and the people with doctrines, these people with PhDs, refuse to get on there and talk with other people with doctrines, um, so then I did find out something that was interesting from my understanding. The first version of Hebrew didn't have vowels. It must have sounded quite native, like Native Americans. They have vowels, but it's limited vowels. They use a lot of A's, a K's, a W's, S's, but their A's. Um, and O's, yeah, they use vowels, come to think of it. But then I guess like about 500 years after the first Hebrew language, then they started adding the vowels in it from what they called the Messianic text, from my understanding, from what I was reading this morning. I'm not sure how true that is. I ran across the article I thought was interesting, so I started reading it, and that's what it said. So, anyway, but yeah, it's interesting. But what they would call probably like a Paleo Hebrew, you know, it's like in Alexandria, Egypt, Crete, Italy. I mean, yeah, there's Latin, but these has it migrated west. These people were Greek speaking people even before it came into the Middle East, you know. So it's just neighboring dialects and people that share, I could say, share the same scriptures. But when one person's scriptures were taken and turned into somebody else's, and the meanings were changed, and we have it documented how old the original texts are, that's where it separates the liars from the true people right there. So when you hear these people preaching in from the other texts besides ancient Greek, you're being lied to. That's what I asked people yesterday about the Catholic Church, where it was changed greatly for their benefit of monotheism, taking the mother out of the picture. It doesn't mean God isn't the source of energy. It just means that a man and a woman made the first man on this planet with the energy from God, but it still took two parents, and it wasn't the combination of some kind of androgenized person. It's a matter of the mind with God, it's a matter of the flesh with people. There's a big distinction there, huge. So people can play with that all they want, but the actual science of how people have families is never going to change. It is what it is. And it's provable over and over daily with every birth that's made on this planet. There was a mom and a dad. It wasn't just one something. It even says in the scriptures there was two of each kind made. People are considered animals, so doesn't that tell you that right there is what that says? It's not a combination, it's one of each. So these liars will keep lying even when they're confronted with the truth because their version of the lie they carry, their version of twisting the truth suits them. So I'm sure there's a whole lot more we're going to be digging up because there's a lot of texts in these ancient books that have not been translated. So that's going to be an adventure for the future for these Greek speaking students that are up and coming on this planet now. And then it'll be in force, hopefully. I would love to see um, the whole Mediterranean that has a deep enough understanding that they could grasp that ancient language and pull that forth in force for people on the planet. And then the more that becomes the norm, we can wash out what isn't normal. And we don't have to rewrite the scriptures. We can just have an understanding of what's actually written in them. And then we can cherish that holy book the way it's actually meant to be. Because not one jot or tittle was supposed to, and those are modern words, by the way, um, was it wasn't supposed to be touched till the jots and tits got in there with their crap. And that brings me back to I did share a video that was for a live stream. I had to take it down. It's like this person actually gives evidence of where was a mom and a dad, but then goes off to sound really kind of monotheist in the whole thing of our creation. And so it's like, well, nah, I can't support that. So I did take it down. I'm not going to say who it was. It doesn't matter. These men know what they're doing. There's such a thing that comes upon people when you oppose the dark force. There's a lightning that did originate from heaven, but it's not in heaven. There's a lightning that you'll be struck by if you venture into the truth. It just depends on if you're going to borrow God's lightning to throw right back at that dark force, or if you're going to be intimidated by the fact that you might be struck. I almost said something different there, but yeah, you might be that too if you don't do things the righteous way. You're totally screwed if you don't do it right. It's pretty hot out. It's like 104. Went from like 50 degrees last night to just super hot. I was out with my phone. I was taking pictures of my timbers and my rough cut 2x4s and stuff that I have for my greenhouse. And I got back in and it didn't work out. Um, the sound didn't work. I don't know what went wrong. I've got to look into getting another camera. I've said that before, but I want one so when I go on excursions, which I expect to be doing a little more of in the future, perhaps. But if you're new here, I went through some really bad physical ailments that I'm just now I'm not super snapped out of it because I've got like some chronic things that um, from allergies and that type of thing that are just there. But little like plastics and papers and real common, all metals except for platinum and sterling silver. I can't even wear jewelry that I have. So now I saw a post where I've been telling people for a very long time about perfumes and makeup and different things, even with these like minerals that people will put on their face. This is all poison. It's got heavy metals in it. There's like this copper stuff. Did you know copper in makeup? Did you know that too much copper in your system can poison you? Not all metals are really good in, like even in a multiple vitamin and like zinc, like you can overload on different things, you know. Some people aren't aware of that. They think, well, like copperware or copper jewelry and that type of thing. No, it's not good. Not always. Yeah. Well, that's probably about it today. I just wanted to mention the fact that there's absolute proof where the first documents started, um, and where these books were taken from to make what is canonized today. And if you're into investigating the truth, if you care about other people, you're going to listen to the people that are doing things the right way, not the way the establishment that wants to ruin your life, by the way, with all this, because you are being deceived. It doesn't take God out of the picture. But if you're hung up on somebody you think is your savior and he's got ionic life, that means reincarnation, not immortality, you have to check the words and check them twice, you know, to see what you're actually worshiping and what you're pledging yourself, your whole soul to. So, okay, I'm going to leave it there. I appreciate you joining me. Have a really good week ahead. I love you all. Peace from Pine City, Minnesota, USA.